I am so excited to be talking about this next topic. And I think what we're going to be talking about is a little polarizing, right? Okay. Let me explain. It's nothing. It's nothing, y'all. But have you ever noticed that there's Team Diddy, Team No Diddy, right? Okay, so for y'all newbies, there are people that are diehard do-it-yourselfers. They are going to move their stuff every single time, and there are people who will never even pretend like that's their life. And I'm over in that camp, right? There's Team Rent, Team Buy, right? I always rent. I'm not trying to get strapped with a house. There's Team I buy everywhere I go. I sell it later. I rent it later, right? There are people that have very clear lanes. I think my next lane, this polarizing lane, is about how much research people do before they move, right? So to help me break down this topic, I brought in my research buddy, Jen. Hi, Jen. Welcome.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being so brave and having literally no information before joining us. I appreciate your your
No
step
problem.
there. Okay, you guys, Jen, I'm gonna read your proper introduction because I don't want to. These numbers floor me. All right, Miss Jen here has 4 kiddos, two dog. Is it two dog? No, 4 kids, one
Just
poodle,
one.
22 PCSs, y'all. I don't even know. I kind of want to fact check that. That's crazy. That's crazy. But okay. So Jen is joining us with an insane amount of moves under her belt, but she's also Millie's content lead. She's helping us research, produce, and refine all of the amazing information that we try to offer you all that's going to be helpful in making sure that you are prepared for your PCS. Okay. So Jen, I don't want to jinx you because I know you just got a little settled. But if your spouse came home today with surprise orders to a place you've never been, what would be your first steps?
At first, I need a minute to process. It takes me a minute to get over that shock, but I love to research, and that's kind of my coping mechanism. Not everyone is that way. So if you aren't that way, find yourself a friend who loves research. So my first thing is to actually figure out what the installation is. We moved last summer to a location that we had zero context for. It was never a possibility. So I looked it up. I checked out the installation website to see, who's at this base, what they do, why they're there, how long it's been there. And so right away for us, I knew that this is a schoolhouse assignment. So there are a lot of people that are rotating through this duty station real fast. Your permanent party, group is going to be smaller. So as a mom of 4, I know that I've got house needs, right? And that if we're at a location that's got a lot of students, that might make my house search a little bit different, right? Students that are early to mid-career might have different housing needs than, say, a mom with a pack of kids. So that kind of starts to shape what that looks like for me and kind of help me mentally prepare. The next thing I do, and you mentioned it earlier, and I'm thrilled, is that pattern of life exercise. Mm-hmm. That is really important. I think everyone should do that. And in that, Google is my best friend, where I start figuring out, where does my kid swim at? What happens if the kid that's really into art now pivots and decides she wants to do dance? Where would I be driving? What would I be looking at? When I don't want to cook, where am I going to go?
That's a big one,
yeah.
Right? Well, I've thought back on some of my past PCSs, and I'm always like, seems like there's always this like jolt, right? Where something's off and you can't quite put a finger on it, and you just blame it on PCS, like, it's stressful, transition, all the things. But usually it's something simple, like, oh my God, I miss my coffee shop, and you're like, okay. That's important to me, clearly, like that hour once a week that I had reserved that I would meet with, you know what I mean? So like, again, if you don't see that, like sometimes it takes a while for that to surface. So the more you start to look at your patterns, what's important to you, what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what do you need, then you can try to fill those holes, or at least know that the hole's going to be there maybe. And then you can start like adjusting beforehand instead of being like unsettled when you get there. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Mm-hmm. So you talked about looking up the bases and information about the base, which I think is brilliant. And also I think that comes with experience. So you guys, if you're watching this and you haven't done a lot of PCSs, like that's a bomb. That's a knowledge bomb right there. Cause those are insights that take a while to grasp. So ask questions like that. Okay. If you go in your Facebook group or wherever and you have people who are saying, well, it's a schoolhouse, like, hey, what does that actually mean? What does that mean? What are you saying right now? Oh, and someone like Jen can answer that. That's great. What are some other resources and kind of go-tos that you look to?
So touching on that, I will say that, the Millie Base Guides, that's literally what we do. We come out swinging on that first page with all the information you need to know about that installation and why it's important. So I think that's a tremendous resource. And then we hit on some of those other big questions like, where are the schools? Where are the major entertainment areas? What are the popular neighborhoods, or what are the, and I hesitate to say popular neighborhoods because it's actually kind of a loaded term, right? Popular has a context, popular for what? So we kind of look at the range of neighborhoods. If you want rural, you could live over here. If you want like the city life, or you want to walk everywhere, check out this area. If you got a pack of kids and like, how far is the closest park? Maybe this area is a good choice for you. So definitely the base guides. I also like to tap into the local newspapers. And I know that makes me sound so old.
No,
I know.
y'all, a
The scouts
newspaper.
they were mentioning.
Wait, let's unpack that. A newspaper is what, just kidding.
I know.
I defined a phone book the other day, so it's fine. I'm on a roll.
I know. I sound so old. You guys are talking about Instagram and that kind of thing. But I like that local reporting because it kind of tells you what the area thinks about itself, right?
I love that.
You mentioned earlier living like a local. I can build a life for my family anywhere, but it really helps if I can tap into that local connection and figure out, what do the people who are from this area love about this area? Because I want to love it too. So yeah, the local news sources, they tell you like what they're proud of, what they feature. It's also a great place to tap into like if there's stuff where maybe the schools are being considered for rezoning and this neighborhood's on the edge, if that's really important to you, that's a great thing. And if you've got a great real estate agent, they'll be able to kind of clue you into that stuff too. But doing that research ahead of time is really helpful.
Yeah, it's actually really timely for us here. I watched a school board meeting that no one really knew about, but it was all about rezoning all the different districts. I was like, oh my God, nobody's paying attention.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
Huge deal. And you're right. The newspapers are going to be a first step to what people are passionate about. What are the fights?
Yeah, nobody Instagrams a school board meeting.
This is probably true. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think my feed is a little different than maybe Jana's feed. I might see all kinds of that, but yeah, you're right. You're not gonna see that on the surface, but it does definitely give you sort of like, oh, these are the things that people talk about here. These are the big deals. This is the big deal here. This is the big industry here, right? You can learn a lot about an area once you understand what the industries are that provide for the area. Here at Fort Bragg, the big industry is the military. So that's a huge indicator of, well, we've kind of been embraced by the local community. We put food on their tables, literally, like in a lot of ways. So there's not that like hesitations where you might get at an area that, I wouldn't say pro-military, that sounds weird, but yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like we're a huge function of this community here. So it definitely dictates the tone. That's great. Oh my God, I could do. See, this is a problem, you guys, because I think one of my questions was supposed to be, how do you not chase the rabbits? Because I spend all day chasing rabbits down rabbit holes. Jen, get me focused. Because everything is interesting to me. So what advice do you give to someone who needs to just zone it in and stay focused?
So I give myself a week to process, and it's a very hard, it's kind of arbitrary, but a week feels good to me. For a week, like, the RFO maybe hasn't actually shown up yet, or maybe you've just got it, but you can't do anything yet. But I take a week to process. So during that week, I do chase those rabbit trails because that helps me figure out what my life looks like. It helps me get a lay of the land and kind of figure out the local geography, where the services are that I need and the things that are important to me lay. After that, once I start to get like some papers in my hand, then I start diving to figure out those deep questions. What is a realistic budget for our housing? What are my, prime choices in housing? What are my, what's my second and third? I really like pros and cons lists, and I make lots of lists. So I literally do have a list. When I say I have a first choice, a second choice, and a third choice, I write it all out. And then I write out my pros and cons for each one because it helps me kind of focus on what's really important. I like highlighters. So I like to put, I know, I have a problem. So I like to put stars by things. But it helps me figure out what's important. It helps me focus in on the things that are important to my family. And then I use that as my guidepost for all future decisions.
Oh, yeah, it's so important, right? Because you can get emotionally wrapped up in a lot of this very quickly and very easily, especially just how stressful it all is. Your emotions are the first thing to like want to take over, so it's hard to kind of just stay focused. Also, if you're looking at 2 or 3 different duty stations, maybe you're not sure which one, right? Having a system with some very clear data points that you're looking at will help you compare base A, base B, base C, so that you're, at least you have feasible options no matter what happens, which gives you I don't know, I just think that's one of the most empowering things, to not be off guard no matter what happens. So Jen,
just go online, pull up a Millie Base guide, and that will give you all the information. When you are making that wish list for PCS, just do that. It's the easy button.
We've done it. That's what we're trying to get at here. Like, it sounds like a lot of work, because it is, and we've done it all for you, and it's over on the Millie Base guide.
It's over there, yes, by people who love researching. This brings us joy.
Yeah, back to your friends that love research. You found us. We're here. Yep. Okay, well, speaking of, has there ever been a time that you feel like you made a mistake in your research?
Sure.
A wrong turn, if you will, and then how did you adjust or learn from that situation?
Yeah, you make decisions with the best information that you can, right? And I think it's important in that case to give yourself grace for that. You can research, you can do the best that you need to, and you can try your hardest to make the perfect decision, but sometimes there isn't, right? Sometimes you have to choose from less than desirable results, and you make the best decision you can with that information. So give yourself grace that you did the best you could. I think sometimes there's like a little bit of a tendency to kind of sharpshoot you and your spouse, or blame other people or the information that you got. And that's not really helpful. So, once you have put that aside, then you can kind of look at, how can I shape this in a way that works for my family? Like I said earlier, you can build a life for yourself. There's a lot you can control within your house and within your little circle to kind of find some goodness in there. And it's not a great decision, right? It's not hard. Nobody wants to have to live with consequences of a decision they regret, but sometimes you do. It's a pragmatic choice. You have to evaluate the financial ramifications of your decision. If it's something that's really a hardship on your family, then maybe it is better to just decide, okay, we're going to go ahead and move, even though it's going to cost us money here and time and effort, because it alleviates this. That's a super personal decision, like we talked about earlier, and everybody's going to come down on different places on that decision. So I would say, go back to your pros and cons list, go back to that pattern of life, and revisit all of that and work through that decision-making process again with your new information and see where you come down.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we're trying to get everyone as informed as possible up front, again, because we want you to avoid the missteps, right? We don't want you to fall into the potholes and the trips that happen. But when they do, know that you've done your best, and you're right, reevaluate based on the new information. Things change. I love that, Jen. You sound like you have some experience with that. I'm not going to bring it up. But
You've done it a time or two. Nobody gets this far in military life without a few wrong turns, right?
It's true.
I will say, ours would have been prevented by using a scout and having some boots on the ground to really assess that housing, because they would have said, you've said you have house needs. Are you sure this is really going to meet your house needs?
Right. It's gathering more information, right, y'all? I mean, I joke that the scouts are like camera. We try to keep them from veering into giving opinions, right, about a house, because we're just fact finders. I don't like objectifying people, but I'm like, y'all are objects. Put yourself in the place of you're a camera, you're a video recorder, you are someone who notices really strong aromas, right? But that doesn't mean that you have, you're not weighing in on the decision, because you're only trying to provide as much information as possible to the person who is, which ultimately is you. So, and I don't know anybody that doesn't feel better with more information when making a decision. So we're here for you for that. Jen, thank you so much for sharing
Kellie.
your time with me, your expertise, and for all of your amazing work on our Millie Base guides. We are so appreciative of you. And yeah, best of luck. Hopefully no surprise orders. I am so sorry I put that out into the universe for you. But you'll be fine. You got us.
We're good.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jen. We appreciate you.